So for our next presenter, I'll go with his data job. His first data job is interesting. Back at Sprint in 1994, he worked at Sprint and created their first relational database setup for customer marketing. So way back in 1994, probably we all got some emails related to Sprint, and we can thank our next presenter. The fun fact, huge baseball fan, massive baseball fan, and is on a quest to visit and see a game at every single Major League Baseball park. So he has 6 more to go, and we wish him well in his quest. So let's bring up our next presenter, Kevin McGinnis from Pinsight Media. Kevin? This and that.
Thanks, Sean. Good morning. Show of hands, any San Francisco Giant fans in the audience? Ooh, tough crowd then. I was just thinking last night about the fun fact portion of this thing, that my trip to AT&T Park was actually for a San Francisco Giants World Series win, but none of you really care, so we'll just move on from that. As John said, I am the CEO of Pinsight Media. For those of you who don't know about Pinsight Media, we are a premium source for actionable insights using first-party carrier data. And we use that data to actually power more intelligent business decisions and help brands and businesses better understand who their real consumers are and what their real behaviors are. And when they asked me to give this presentation, I'll admit, a little confession, I was very concerned because they said, you're going to be at DataWorks giving a keynote presentation. And I thought, well, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a data scientist, and if they asked me to talk about the technology stack, we're going to have a real problem. They said, no, calm down, Kevin. Actually, what we want you to do is we want you to explain how your business and how the data that you have in your business is either transforming your company or transforming your industry. And I thought, that's pretty easy. I think we can talk about that. So what I want to do this morning is I want to talk through really a couple different things. One, I want to talk about the big industry, the evolution of our industry, and how that's created our vision and our view of how we need to approach the market. Talk a little bit about how that evolution has really created a problem for our customers that we are solving for them. And then talk about the data itself. Talk about the data set, how it's different than other data sets that are out there, and how we see that really impacting those industries, and being, quite honestly, very transformative to the available data sets that are out there for those industries today. And then want to show you a brief demonstration of the data at work, and I think that really kind of brings it to light and helps you understand what we're talking about. So the image that you see behind me is actually one of the most, I think, telling things to talk about the evolution of mobile. Mobile is ubiquitous. I'm sure everybody here has a mobile phone with them. And I think it's something that we never leave behind. It's something that we use every day in our lives. And I think the speed at which that has happened surprises some people when you look back on what's happened in the industry. So what you see is, in 2005, this is a picture from the Vatican, from St. Peter's Square. And it was the announcement of Pope Benedict. You see no mobile phones. You see the exact same picture in 2013 for the announcement of Pope Francis. And you see everyone, this amazes me, you see everyone watching a live event through a little screen that they've put in front of their face. If you've ever been to a Little League baseball game, you see the same phenomenon there as well. And I think this really speaks to what has started to happen. This ubiquity has really kind of transformed behaviors and transformed society in a very meaningful way. And by that, I mean we communicate, we navigate, we shop, we work out, we entertain ourselves. It's really gone from being a communications device to being a channel for content to now it's a full-blown utility. And 2013 happened to be the same year that we realized that that utility and that function that was coming from mobile devices was actually an opportunity for us to take all of this data that is generated through the network and actually create an opportunity, create an answer for a problem that's out there. So you could say we had a solution looking for a problem, but the reality is the problem was staring us right in the face, and that's what I'm here to talk about. The idea of the 8-second rule. Show of hands, anybody heard of the 8-second rule? All right, good. So in 2015, Time magazine published an article about a study that Microsoft had done where they had actually researched and analyzed the attention span of humans. And what they came back and concluded was the attention span is now 8 seconds. And that is not very long. I think Facebook just said something about having a 3-second attention span, but that's for people who still use Facebook. The honest problem with this is that if you think about attention spans, 8 seconds is actually less time than the average goldfish. So we as a human species have let this ubiquity of mobile, the distraction, the clutter of what happens in the digital world, in the mobile world, actually make us less effective from an attention span perspective than a fish. And that creates a tremendous challenge for our customers. Because if you think about it, there is now a finite window in which you can understand consumer behavior, connect with your user, and engage them in a meaningful way. And that's a real problem. For us, that problem, that technology, that underlying technology that created some of this situation, we feel like is actually part of the answer to the problem. And so I really want to walk you through what that data set looks like and what we see when we look at mobile data and how it's different than the data that's out there in the ecosystem today. So the first way that it's very different is actually it's on 24/7. It's always fresh, it's always fluid, and it's ever changing, which is extremely important when you think about this 8-second attention span opportunity. Now the data sets themselves, just to give you a quick tutorial on what we actually pull in, we pull in about 30 different data sets from across the mobile domain and the mobile ecosystem. Some of it's application data, some of it's CRM data, demographic data, those types of things. But the two major data sources that are impacted by this 24/7 situation are location data. So we see about 600 events per day per device that's on the network. And that's quite different than what you see in the application domain, where it's usually 5 to 25 times per day per device or per user. And we also see behavioral information. We see what people are actually doing on the network. And if it's not encrypted, we can see the URI strings, we see domains, we see IP ranges, we see really what people are doing, where they're going, what applications they're using, and those types of things. The second way that the data is very different is the fact that it's personalized. It's very different for every user. And by that, it's as unique as the fingerprint of the person who's using it. So for me, you see me up here on the stage today as a CEO, but if you were to look behind my lock screen, or if you were to look at the browser on my phone, you would see that I'm a single father of teenage girls, that as John said, I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a season ticket holder to the Kansas City Royals and the Kansas Jayhawks. You would also see that the applications I use on my phone, I'm actually learning a language using an application on my phone, Duolingo. I'm a Spotify user multiple times a day. I use my phone to work out using MapMyFitness. And so there's a lot of insights that you can glean from looking at the mobile traffic and understanding what someone might be doing with their device. Another way that it's very different is it's extremely relevant. Can you think of another device that is more contextually aware all the time than the mobile phone? The idea of capturing the right person, the right place, the right time is only possible in the mobile domain. And then finally, the idea that this data is extremely actionable and insightful. It's really the only way that businesses and brands can understand the intent to engage of their consumers and really understand that moment when they're ready to make a purchase decision, to stop by a location, or to do any other type of engagement that would be meaningful for that business. And it's extremely transformative in this actionable state for quite a few industries. And so the insights that are derived from mobile data have the opportunity to create insights to help brands better understand their creative, the messaging that they need to provide to their consumers, how they need to talk to them in a moment and create personalized messaging. It has the opportunity to drive tremendous change for businesses to make more intelligent decisions about where they need to locate retail, what they need to do as it relates to the physical structure of their business, and how they need to structure maybe displays in their stores and do those types of things. And then finally, it has the ability for us to drive better experiences for consumers across the board, whether it's in mobile or elsewhere, understanding who they are from a better perspective. Now what I want to do is I want to show you a video that we've created that really demonstrates the power of this data. And what you see behind me is a sky view of Kansas City. We had one of our employees, the product manager for this, that has actually volunteered to let us actually look at the difference between his commute to work using network data and his commute to work using application data. So we'll just call this employee Adam, and I'll show you Adam's commute to work. And I think it demonstrates the power of what we're talking about here. The blue dots that you will see are the times that we see Adam on the network. And as we see Adam every 2.5 minutes on his commute, you can see that we see him quite frequently. If you were to look at application data, which you see much less, we would only see his origination and his destination point. So you have to use probabilistic techniques to determine what's the most likely route he would take, and that's the red line. So as Adam arrives to work, and you pull back and you look at the differences, it might not seem dramatic to you. But if you're thinking about this as a retailer who's trying to determine where they need to open or close a location, understanding where your consumers are really going is a very important thing. This is a 10 to 20-year investment that you might make. If you're an out-of-home marketer trying to put your message in front of a consumer, understanding where they're going and understanding who's actually in that car is a very different equation than what's available today, which is really car counts, census counts, and understanding some very basic things. We know who's in the vehicle, we know the origination and destination catchment areas, and we can tell you where to properly put that message and what message you need to put out there. And if you're just a marketer in general, the idea of understanding that Adam has probably driven by a Starbucks in the morning and not a Dunkin' Donuts, or he's probably driving by a Home Depot on his way home and not a Lowe's, those are extremely critical decisions to help businesses better and more efficiently spend their money. So all of this, really the way to summarize, I think, what's happening for all of these industries that are learning about data sources and learning about new ways to use data is this Rupert Murdoch quote. And the idea that it's not about the big beating the small anymore. It's about the fast beating the slow. And so for us, the ability to process these large sets of data faster and better is extremely important, not just for our business, but for all of the industries that we're serving today. And so at the end of the day, what we like to say is it's really not about the data, even though we are a data company. When we talk to our customers and we face the market, and I think it's important for everyone who works in this domain to keep this in mind, it's really not about the data. It's really about saying, well, we're data-fueled, but we're insights-driven. Thank you very much for giving me more than 8 seconds of your time. Thank you.